Old Mike, you're absolutely nuts. You're doing a 20-year plan at 80 years old? Holy moly. I don't believe it. Well, guess what? I started making 10-year goals at 30 years old. That's right. For the last 50 years, I've made a 10-year goal at the start of every decade. 30 years ago, I started my first 10-year goal. In this video, I want to share with you the 3 strategies that I've used for 50 years to write out my 10-year goals. And I want to share with you today how to do that. Hi, this is Old Mike, Old Me, living better. You can live better at any age, of course. You should know my motto by now: if you ain't dead, you ain't done. Now, I'm going to recommend 5 different books in this video. I'll provide links to all of those books. They're Amazon links. I get a small commission off of them. You don't pay any more. It helps to support the channel. But at the very beginning, I want to set the context for why you should consider making a 10-year goal. If you're 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever age you are at, I'm going to suggest a 10-year goal will change your life. Now, I don't know whether doing these goals every 10 years has helped me to live to be 81 years old, but I have to think that it's made me a more productive and vibrant individual by having something to live by. So my good friend Steve Carman is a retired NASA scientist. He worked on the Mars, 2 of the Mars rovers. After he retired, he went around and lectured on his experience with those Mars rovers. When I set a 10-year goal, I look at that goal as my North Star goal, similar to trying to get a rover to Mars. There's a lot of distance between Earth and Mars, and it seems like a lot of distance between where I am now and where I will be in 10 years. Steve, in his lectures, he made a big point out of the fact that we know where we're going to go, but how do we get there? That goes to one of the strategies that I'm going to share with you. And Steve said that you shoot the rocket off, the rover heads to Mars, and he said if that rover gets off by even 1%, it could miss Mars by 1,000,000 miles or more. So there's a process in setting a goal, making a plan, living a legacy that will change your life. Part of it is setting the goal. The other part is making a plan to achieve that goal. And then lastly, you need to land the rover on Mars. You need to have a landing zone, and you need to leave a legacy. Now, 2 of the books I'm going to recommend, they're great. The first one is by Ali Abdaal. Many of you know Ali from YouTube. He's got a great channel. He wrote a book called Feel Good Productivity. I'll leave a link to that in the description, and also to his channel. And then the other book that I really love, I've recommended it before, is by Cal Newport, Slow Productivity, The Lost Art of Accomplishment Without Burnout. Now, you look at these 2 books, they at first seem like they're maybe in opposition to each other. They really aren't. They fit together really well. I like Ali's practical application. I like Cal's what I would call sane application. It's an application that anybody can apply so that you do not get burned out in achieving your goal, working a plan, finding a landing zone. So what are my 3 strategies for setting a 10-year goal? Here they are. Number 1, finish well. That's the goal. Finish well. In other words, where I am now isn't where I will be in 10 years. I want the version of me in 10 years to be better than the version of me now. So some people, when they use the term finish well, they're talking about end of life. Now, me making a 20-year plan at 80 years old, oh my word, that's nuts. Yeah, I'm thinking about finishing well. But throughout the last 50 years, I wasn't thinking to the end of my life. I was thinking to the end of those 10 years. I want to be better off, more productive, a better person at the end of those 10 years than when I started. So another book I'm going to recommend in this first strategy is a book by Oliver Burkeman. I mentioned Oliver before in some of my videos. It's called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. And Burkeman is a Stoic. The reason this book fits so well in making goals, Burkeman has an approach to making goals that are realistic, not over-embellished, not underachieving, goals that have the opportunity to be achieved. He talks about not obsessing on goals, but living out the goal as a process. It's a terrific book. I encourage you to get that. Book. So in 50 years, this first goal, based on finishing well, hasn't changed. I sit down and I try to visualize what I'll be like in 10 years, what I want to be like in 10 years. It's outcome oriented. I believe the long term, the bigger goal should be outcome oriented. But that leads to the strategy number 2, which is the plan. So strategy number 1 is finish well. Strategy number 2 is plan well. You can't finish well if you don't plan well. The goal is the North Star. The plan is the trajectory to get to the North Star. It's the route you take to get to Mars. It's as simple as that. Plans are so important, and they're made to be changed. My plans, in a 10-year goal, my plans to get to that goal, it was not a straight line. It wove all over the place, partly because I get off course, then I get on course, I get off course over here. Sometimes the course completely changes. Now, my target doesn't change. My ultimate goal never changed in that 10 years. But the plan to get there changed. Career changes, health changes, financial issues, issues with what I desired and didn't desire. So many things come up in life that affect our plans. Now, I believe that in a 10-year goal, you need to break it down into 1-year increments. So what I've done for the last 50 years is I've simply, at the beginning of each year, I review that 10-year plan. And I see where I've accomplished and what I haven't accomplished. Also, every morning for the last 50 years, I start with journaling. I'm using my Oxen Pine journal now to outline my video, but I have another journal that I write in every day. And then in that journal, I outline what it is that I want to accomplish that day. So I've broken my 10-year goal down to 1-year goals, down to 1-day goals. Now, do I always get my plans and my goals on track? No, I don't. But at least I'm writing them down. I go through the process, and I'm able to see progress in each one of those steps. So Proverbs 29:18 says, "If people fail because of a vision." I believe the vision is associated with the plan and not so much the goal. I need to have a vision for today, a vision for tomorrow, a vision maybe for the 10 years. Well, so what can you accomplish in 10 years? I made a list of a few things. In 10 years, you could get healthy. In 10 years, you could learn 1 or 2 new languages. In 10 years, you can complete a master's degree. In 10 years, you can change careers, maybe once or twice even, I don't know. In 10 years, you can start a YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel at 80 years old. That's right, 80 years old. My life isn't over. I may look like I'm over, but my life isn't over. There's some of my life that's winding down. But there's other parts of my life that are just getting revved up. And part of it's getting revved up because of setting new goal, a new 20-year goal, a new plan to get to the end of that 20 years, to live to be 100. Do you think that's impossible? I got a whole bunch of friends that are 100 or more. You've heard me talk about Selma before. I mean, she's my hero. She lived to be 111. I was riding in her car when she was 105. And she was a good driver. Finally, one day she called and said, you know, I think I'm done with driving. And I said, what? You're done with driving? She said, I'm just bored with it. Too many crazy drivers. I'm just done with it. But she was still driving, 105 years old. She's a good driver. She got her driver's license renewed at 102. So age is not a barrier. But if you don't have a goal and you don't have a plan, yeah, age can be a barrier. Everything can be a barrier. So the book that I want to recommend in this section, in the planning stage, remember, the first one is goal, finishing well. The second goal, or the second strategy, is planning well, is a book that I've recommended many times by James Clear, Atomic Habits. I got to tell you, I wished I'd had this book when I was 30 years old. I have wasted more time with bad habits. Do any of you have bad habits? Share in the comments. No, don't share in the comments below. I don't want to know about your bad habits. Do you have good habits? Tell me about those. But Atomic Habits is such a wonderful book. And if you're serious about planning, you need to read this book. Part of the obstacles that we face in planning has to do with getting through those obstacles. And many of the obstacles are because we have bad habits. Habits that keep us from being productive. Habits that keep us from being productive. James Clear, in this book, Tiny Changes with Remarkable Results. I think the joy of this book is that you don't have to make big changes. I mean, you don't have to stop doing something that's major, that's really troubling in your life, but you can make a slight change today. He has all these concepts of stacking habits. So you do one habit and you stack it with another habit, and a habit becomes on top. I mean, it's a wonderful book. If I'd had this when I was 30, I think I would have been accomplished what I have by 80. I might have accomplished it by the time I got to be 50. I don't know. That's how powerful this book is in setting your mind for planning a 10-year goal. So what is strategy number 3? I call it Leave Well, Legacy Building, Arriving on Mars. I don't have a really good catchy title for it, but it's the history you leave behind. Let me explain it this way. So at 30, I made a 10-year goal, and I had a career objective in that 10-year goal. And part of that goal, which is based on outcomes, I wanted that my experience in that career would be effective to other people. Other people would be encouraged and inspired by having an association with me during those 10 years. So part of that 10-year goal, the landing on Mars for me, was the history that I left behind. In other words, if you make a 10-year goal and a 10-year plan, you're going to create history over those 10 years. You're going to have a legacy. People talk about lifetime legacies all the time. What's a person's legacy at the end of their life? Well, I think we also have legacies that we develop in 10-year increments, Andy. Now, some of you know that I've been working with seniors, and I'm a pastor of a church. And over the last 33 years, I've done 200 funerals. So I want to ask you a question. What is the legacy that you leave behind What are the people going to say about you at your funeral? Oh, Mike, don't bring that up, please. Well, after doing 200 funerals, I've heard a lot of people talk about the deceased while they are at the podium or at the memorial service or even at the gravesite. But that's not where you hear the real stuff. You hear the real stuff at the reception. I've been to funerals that I've officiated, and there are all these glowing things about the deceased. Oh, she was, he was, wonderful, wonderful. Then at the reception, I'm sitting at a table and I overhear the table next to me. There's a person over there saying, you know, he was the biggest bore in life. He drove me nuts. He complained all the time. You couldn't believe it. He was the biggest, weirdest person I've ever met. I could hardly stand him. Well, so at the reception, you hear a different story than you did at the service. So what about you? What do people really say about you? I think that's part of the legacy that we leave over 10-year increments or over an entire lifetime. The last book that I want to share with you is a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. It's a book by Cal Newport. It's subtitled Why Skills Trump Passion in the Quest for Work That You Love. It's a fascinating book because everybody's passionate about something, but the problem is just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean that you have any capital in that passion. By capital, Cal means the amount of investment, knowledge, or expertise that you have in that passion. So Cal is saying you want to become good at what you're passionate about. Cal says you want to become good at what you are passionate about. So if you have a mentor that's honest with you, and you get honest feedback, you get job performances where you work at, don't look at those job performances in a negative way. They may be pointing out things that you need to be able to leave a legacy, leave a trail of history behind that'll be effective. Otherwise, you probably won't. I think the bottom line for this last is that I'm not interested in my name being on a building as a legacy. I want my name to be remembered in the hearts of the people that I've been around or that I've touched. Now, if you're like me and you're retired or you're in your 80s or older, 65 to 85, I want to leave this last thing regarding legacy with you. 20 years, I think it was when I was 60, I took 30 people through a project of writing their life story. I found this great tool. I'm going to provide a link in the description. It's called 52 Stories, Writing Your Life Story Has Never Been Easier. It's from FamilySearch.org. And why it's so great is you get 52 prompts. You have a whole week to write that prompt out. I filled up almost 2 journals doing this project. Some of the questions are very simple, some of the questions get very deep, but you have a whole week to write out the answer to that prompt. You can write more, of course, but it's a way to be able to write your life story to leave with your family and your friends as a legacy to your life. So do you have a 10-year goal? And a plan to get to that goal? And an idea what you're going to leave behind after that 10 years? So I encourage you to think about this strategy. I've been using it for 50 years. It's not set in stone. I've had all kinds of modifications along the way. But if you don't have a goal, you don't have a plan, you don't have a concept of leaving a legacy, your productivity will not be successful. Research is real clear on this. For the people that write down their goals, write down their plans, they are 46 to 50% more productive in life. That's what I hope for me, and that's what I hope for you, that you'll be more productive in life too. So this is old Mike, old me, living better. If you ain't dead, you ain't done. I've enjoyed sharing this with you. I hope it's been helpful, okay? If it has, subscribe, buy me a cup of coffee, leave a comment, good, bad, or ugly, in the comments, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye.